Hi, this is Frode and welcome back to Actualize Notes TV. Today you'll learn some practical ways for improving your skills, taken directly from world-class athletes. Before we begin, I want to tell you that I'm really interested in making these videos the best experience I can for you. So I would highly appreciate if you can tell me what I could have done better in this video. The tips for improving your skills come from the great book, The Little Book of Talent by Daniel Coyle. The Little Book of Talent. Subtitle, 52 Tips for Improving Your Skills. Daniel Coyle is the best-selling author of The Talent Code, and he's a contributing member of Outside Magazine, and in my opinion, an amazingly inspiring and concise writer. He wrote the Little Book of Talent, sort of as a manual that you can use to know what to do and what not to do when you are practicing to improve your skills. So whether you're an entrepreneur, student, teacher, writer, you name it, you'll find the ideas in this book incredibly useful. I know I did. So let's just get started with the first big idea, which is the sweet spot. Daniel tells us that the sweet spot is that edge right at the edge. Is that spot, right at the edge of your abilities. It's the spot where you learn the best and the fastest. And he talks about 3 different practice zones we can be in when we're practicing. The first one is the comfort zone. In this zone, we are succeeding about 80% or more of the time. And when you're in the comfort zone, it's really easy for you practicing. You're really not exerting much effort, and you're basically not improving at all. You're just going through the motions. The second zone is the sweet spot. And this is where you succeed 50 to 80% of the time. And this is where it can be quite frustrating, because it feels like you're reaching with and stretching with all of your might and barely scratching your target with your fingertips before you have to let go and reach again. And this is the optimal place to be in if you want to improve your skills in the best and fastest way. And the reason for this is that we all have a substance called myelin that wraps around our nerve fibers, our circuits in our brains, whenever we perform a specific movement or execute a specific thought. And Dan says that as we keep repeating the same movements or the same thoughts more and more times with intense focus, the signal speeds can increase from 2 to 200 miles per hour, meaning that you are able to do things a lot faster and more fluently. For example, hitting a tennis ball with a bat, or writing a book with lots of different words. Yes, so that's the sweet spot, and it's where we want to be. And then we have the survival zone. Here you're succeeding 50% or less of the time. And this is a really frustrating place to be in. You are just desperate, thrashing around, not knowing whether you get it right or you get it wrong. And therefore, if you stay here for too long, it will basically kill your motivation. So we want to be in the sweet spot, which is the optimal place to be in, to improve our skills in the fastest and quickest and the best way. And we do this by noticing and fixing our mistakes. We want to be really intensely focused, and when we notice mistakes, we want to fix them immediately. I'm in my sweet spot by recording these videos without editing them. That requires me to practice beforehand, so I really know my material. And whenever I don't really know what to say, because I forget it, then I have to get out of it without editing the video, just doing the tape over again. So my question for you is, how can you more consistently get into your sweet spot, where you succeed about 50 to 80% of the time? You're intensely focused, and you're making some mistakes, and you're able to fix them. Our second big idea is Snacks versus binges. Daniel tells us that the most effective way to practice is to do it in snacks, to do a little bit every single day. And that's because of the way our brains work. They improve incrementally, one piece at a time. And that's much better than doing all practice in one day, because that will force our brain to play catch up. Therefore, it's much better to do 5 minutes each day, if you only have that much time, instead of 1 hour on one day. And he presents a quote from the music education pioneer, Shinichi Suzuki, who says, "Practice on the days that you eat." In other words, every single day. Snacks instead of binges. And that goes for food too. I've tried both of them, and snacks is really the best way to go for it. Our third big idea is go solo. Daniel says that going solo while you practice, doing it alone, is best, because it allows you to enter your sweet spot a lot more often, since you're more focused and you don't get much distractions from other people. And it develops your discipline, because you don't rely on other people to show off for practice. And it presents a classical study where they compared world-class performers with top amateurs. And what they found out in the study was that the world-class performers and the top amateurs were pretty much the same in every single variable, except one. The world-class performers practiced 5 times as much alone as the top amateurs. And therefore, of course, they were a lot better. So, yeah, and there was a quote I wanted to tell you that Dan shares from the North Carolina soccer coach, Anson Dorrance. She says, I'm not quite sure, sorry. The vision of a champion is of someone who is bent over, drenched in sweat, at the point of exhaustion, when no one else is watching. We want to be that guy or girl who is drenched over in sweat when no one else is watching, intensely practicing our craft by going solo. 5 times as much. Then, we have an idea I really love. Blue collar. From a distance, it might seem that the world-class athletes and top performers are really living these cushy and comfortable lives. They are just practicing a bit and having a fun time with the other athletes and have a lot of privileges. But no, that's far away from the reality. These athletes have a mindset that is not entitled, but it's 100% blue collar, meaning they get to work and show up every single day, whether they feel like it or not. Steven Pressfield also talks about this in The War of Art, where he says that someone once asked Somerset Maugham whether he wrote only when inspiration struck. And he said, "Yes, I only write when inspiration strikes. Fortunately, it strikes every single morning at 9 a.m. sharp." Meaning that he showed up, whether he felt like it or not, knowing that the inspiration would strike as it just got started. And that's also been true for me. And also, Russ Harris gives us 2 options in his book, The Confidence Gap. He says, 1, you can either do the things that really matter to you when you really feel like it. You're optimistic, positive, and things are going well. But not do it when things are going against you and you don't really feel like it. Or, the second option is you can go out and do what matters to you, whether you feel like it or not. If things are going well, you do it. If things are going bad, you do it. You just keep showing up. And Daniel gives us a quote from Chuck Close. It says, "Inspiration is for amateurs." And there are a lot of mornings that I don't really feel like reading a book, writing a note, or creating one of these videos. But I'm making it a more and more consistent practice to keep showing up, knowing that my skills will improve and I can create something really awesome if I just keep showing up. And a little side note there is that the Stoic Emperor Marcus Aurelius would, a couple of thousand years ago, feel reluctant to get up in the morning. And he would rather stay in bed and roll himself up in blankets and keep warm, instead of going out and fulfill his duties as an emperor. Doesn't that say anything about the reluctance we might feel to go out and do our practice or our work? But we need to show up blue-collar style every single day. Are you doing that? Our fifth big idea is gardener plus carpenter. When it comes to the end, we all want to improve our skills quickly, and oftentimes we want them to improve today. We want to be a master. But Daniel tells us that just like we wouldn't criticize a seed for not yet being an oak tree, we should not criticize our skill circuits for being in their growth stage, myelin style. We are growing that signal speed from 2 to 200 miles per hour, but it's a long stretch. And he gives us two great mindsets to remember this and cultivate our skills. He says, think like a gardener, act like a carpenter. The gardener shows up with non-judgment and patience, silently cultivating his plants and giving them the best possible environment to grow. And the carpenter, he shows up with his lunchbox every single day, steadily and strategically, knowing that every single individual part connects to a larger whole. And this reminds me of, I'm really inspired each morning when I hear the machines start to rumble outside of where I live, because that's a sign that the carpenters and the builders have started their shift. They show up every morning at 7 a.m. sharp, and they stay here for 8 hours and sometimes more, every single weekday and sometimes in the weekends. Therefore, think like a gardener with patience, cultivating your skills, and show up like a carpenter every single day. Just bring your lunchbox and practice and work. So that was gardener plus carpenter. We keep showing up with blue collar style, 100% blue collar. Then we need to go solo. World-class performers practiced 5 times as much alone as top amateurs. And snacks versus binges, it's better doing a little bit each day than a lot in one day. And of course, the sweet spot. We want to locate our sweet spot where we are noticing mistakes and we fix them, increasing our signal speed of our neural circuits from 2 to 200 miles per hour. Well, that was a quick look at the Little Book of Talent. Thank you, Dan Coyle. Now, what's the one idea that jumped out at you? Think about it. I would love to hear how you're reflecting on it in the comment section. And share it with your friends. And most importantly, think about how you can apply the idea to your life starting today. Well, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Have another awesome day. See ya.